if I can do it without being a millionaire and without winning the lottery and without even having like 6 figures saved up, so can you. I'm going to say something and I just want you to hear me out. You can have anything you want in this life. Now your brain may be telling you reasons why you can't, but as someone who now does what it is that they want in life, I'm telling you that you can have anything that you want in this life. Now you may not be able to have everything, right? But you can have anything. So what do you want? The first step to living the life you want is to figure out exactly what it is that you want. What is that anything that you've always dreamed of, that your soul longs for? Is it a house? Is it time freedom? Is it love? You can have anything, but you first need to figure out what that anything is that you want. So take a few seconds and think about this. If you still think I'm chatting foolishness, just humor me, right? Just humor me. I want you to open up your notes app or get a pen and paper, and I want you to write down somewhere what you want. Better yet, not just write it down. I want you to really think through and envision what it is that you want. So for example, if you want a house, I want you to write out, the type of house that you want, the type of neighborhood it's in, what it feels like to walk around in your house, the type of flooring the house has, and how the flooring feels under your feet. Like really think through what you want, and in your mind, just live there for a second and just write all of that out. Don't just think about it, write all of that out. Now I want to tell you a story. So if you watched my last video, you'll know that I don't work anymore. And if you didn't watch that video, don't worry, I've linked it in the description. But before I got to this point of not working anymore, I did this exact thing, right? I figured out the anything that I wanted, and that thing that I wanted the most was to not work anymore. I wanted time freedom. I wanted complete ownership over my life and over my time. So in November of 2022, I wrote out that I wanted to leave my job and not work anymore. And by May 2023, I was laid off, and I haven't worked since then. So yes, the first step to living the life you truly want is to figure out what it is that you want. Then you write out the thing that you want. And when you write it out, don't forget to put a date on it. I think it's interesting. You're going to put a date on it, and then when you get what you want, you're going to go back and you're going to be able to see that date, and it's going to be very interesting thinking through or remembering the timeline between when you wrote out what you wanted and when you got it. Anyway, once you've figured out what it is that you want, the next thing you're going to need to do is to figure out the trade-offs, because you can have anything. Maybe not everything, right? At least not right now, but you can have anything. So you need to understand that for you to get that anything, what it is that you may need to give up or have less of or compromise with in order to get that anything that you want. So what would it mean if you were to get the thing that you want? Would it mean that maybe you spend less time with family, that you'd need to move, that you'd need to stop doing certain behaviors or start doing certain behaviors, that you need to find a better job or make more money? What would you need to do to get the thing that you want? So I'll give another example. In my case, one of the things that my husband and I wanted when we sat down and we said, okay, this is what we wanted, and one of the things we agreed on was that we wanted to buy a house. So we had lived with family for a long time, for the majority of our marriage, I think, and things were fine, but because of that, we hadn't had much time to just be on our own, just the two of us. So we wanted our own home, something, that we owned completely. We wanted our own space, and that would also help us to carve a path for some other goals that we had. But also, we didn't want a mortgage, and also we wanted to move sooner rather than later. So, since we could have anything, right? We could have a home with no mortgage if we really wanted it. What would be the trade-offs? What sacrifices would we need to make to get that home? Well, this would mean that we couldn't buy a home in our province. So we lived in Ontario, where house prices were and are still very ridiculous. So if we wanted a home, and one that we could buy outright in our lifetime, that meant that we would need to look for a home outside of Ontario. So if we wanted to own a home, one of the trade-offs would be that we'd need to move away from all of our family, all of our friends, everyone we knew, to somewhere far that isn't popular to move to, where we knew nothing and no one, and where we'd pretty much be on our own. And to buy a home sooner than later, we needed to stay within a certain budget, which also meant that we had to make compromises on the type of house. So, for example, instead of a 2-bathroom home, we may need to settle for a 1-bathroom home, stuff like that. And we did it. We bought a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home with an unfinished basement for 50,000 Canadian dollars. We had more trade-offs, sure, but we felt the trade-offs were worth it to own a home. So we bought the home and moved to another province. Now, going back to the thing that you want, right? When you are thinking about that thing that you want and you are thinking through it, write out all of the trade-offs, all of the sacrifices, all of the risks that it would take. If you were to get the thing that you want, what would you need to give up? This will help you not only understand some of the things that you may need to do or not do, but also whether the thing you want is truly worth it to you, or whether it's more feasible to compromise and maybe have some of what you want now and the rest later, or whether you may need to speed things up and have most of what you want now, but then that means a lot of sacrifice. But the whole point is to understand what it will take to get that anything that you want. Now, the last thing that you need to do to get what you want is to start making steps toward the thing that you want. Once you understand the trade-offs, the risks, the sacrifices, any compromises you may need to make, you need to then outline all of the steps you need to do to get there. So, going back to my house example, we knew that we wanted to buy a home outright and have no mortgage, and we wanted to do so sooner than later, right? So one of the first things we did was to look online at house prices in other provinces to see what was available. We wanted to see if this was even possible in our country, or maybe if we need to look elsewhere. Then we decided on, how much money we wanted to spend to buy a home, whether we could buy a home with that needed work or needed a lot of work or less work, right? And we created a budget towards any renovations. Then we worked on reducing our expenses where possible, right, to maximize our savings. And then we thought through and decided on how best we can move, right? If it's better to buy a trailer and move with our stuff, or sell everything and buy back everything, it's stuff like that. So essentially, what we did was we looked at the sacrifices and compromises that we would need to make, and then we outlined all of our steps with those things in mind. So outlining the steps that you need to take, even the smallest steps of just research, will help ensure that you are making progress toward the thing that you want, and will help you reach the thing that you want quicker. So in our case, January of 2022, we sat down and we said we wanted to own a home. We wanted to own a home outright. Right? By October of the same year, we moved into it. It was surprisingly fast, but we couldn't have done it, or at least have done it so quickly, if we didn't figure out the steps first and then take action on those steps. So I used all of these steps that I'm telling you. So figuring out what I want, figuring out the trade-offs, and then, the steps I'd need to take to get what I want. These same steps are what I did to figure out the life I want, and I'm living it now. And if I can do it without being a millionaire and without winning the lottery and without even having like 6 figures saved up, so can you. You can do the same thing too. So I hope that this video was inspiring to you, because that was the whole point. The whole point of this video is to inspire you to do what you want, to live the life that you want. And if you were inspired, and if you like content like this and you want to hear more, I would recommend subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. I create videos, whenever the mood hits, so you're going to want to hit that notification bell so you don't miss a new video. And, I talked a lot about me getting what I wanted, me getting that anything that I wanted, but I'd love to know what it is that you want out of life. I'm very curious to know. So just, leave a comment and let me know. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one.